If I were to gather all the Dragon Balls and ask Shenron for a wish, this is certainly not one of the things I'd be thinking of. Hey, what is going on, everybody? How are you all doing today? I hope you all having a wonderful and fantastic day today, and if not, hopefully you all will have a better tomorrow. So today, we are going to review RWBY Volume 6, Chapter 3, The Lost Fable. Now, there was a lot of things that this chapter did do for us. It provided us with answers, provided to lore, it even has risen some questions that will hopefully be answered eventually. And so, how we're going to do this chapter, so I want to address how I'm going to do this. We're going to break this up into parts. I'm going to talk about Salem, I'm going to talk about Ozpin, and I'm going to talk about the gods. I'm going to talk about several different things, as well as the lore a little bit. So we're going to have a rundown of everything, but we are first going to start with the chapter, and then go from there. So that's how we're going to do this today. So sit back, relax, I hope you all enjoy, and let's go ahead and get started. So, we first start the story with Jin telling about how Salem was a lonely girl who was imprisoned within this tower by her father. Now, Salem reminds me of Rapunzel, which leads back to Volume 3, because when Pyrrha and Ozpin are talking, one of the favorite tales of Pyrrha's is actually about the girl in the tower. Hilariously enough, this would result in being Salem, which is the story of Rapunzel. So Salem's case is that of a fairy tale, which I'm liking the fact that they are going back to fairy tale stuff again, naming characters or having things to do with that again, because it felt like a while since they've done something like this. First off, Volume 6 starting with Tweedledee and Tweedledum, then of course you could kind of say that Jin, I guess, is the genie from Aladdin, now Salem being Rapunzel. So we've had several different parts here that would result in some kind of fairy tale story. Ozpin himself, in this case, seemed like he was actually supposed to be the knight that saves Rapunzel, the one that rescues her from the tower, because he is the one who actually takes down her evil father who locked her away, and he saves her. And his story was that he was not a knight for the romance or any of that stuff. He was just someone for justice, just to save others, a selfless being, to put himself on the line to help other people. And once Salem is saved, they fight their way out of the castle. And if you notice, the castle looks like Beacon Tower. It looks exactly like it's Beacon to me. I don't know if anybody else noticed that, but it looks like Beacon. But if anybody also had any thoughts or theories on the fact that Ozpin and Salem may have actually been lovers at one time, well, you would indeed be very well correct. Because even though Ozpin was not looking for love in this situation, he found it in Salem. And at this time, like I stated, his name was actually Ozma. It's stated in the beginning of the episode that his name was originally Ozma. And Ozma seemed like a cool guy in the very beginning. And then you look at Salem as well, because when we have to look at Ozma, we have to look at Salem. Salem herself being locked away in a tower, you can't help but feel bad for her because her freedom had realistically been stripped away by her own father. And for her to finally find somebody to actually be kind enough to set her free, to set her out as if she was a caged animal, and to just free her finally. It was a good thing for her, a good experience for her to have someone that she felt would actually care enough to free her. And so then you have the two of them who, as it stated, seemed to be bound to one another. And it seemed like they were meant to be together. It's like that red knot, I guess you could say. You know, that destined red knot. They said that a person is supposed to be attached to one another. So they then plotted journeys together to go on adventures around the world. And then, here's the sad part. Ozma himself gets ill. And he dies of this illness, which is sad for Salem, because as much as Salem and Ozpin loved each other, that we know of, because we didn't get to really see a lot of that, we just got the brief idea, but it seemed that she genuinely loved him, and he died, and to her, this is not fair, and death can be a very sad thing for us all to deal with. I'm sure that at one time or other we have lost somebody that has been very close to us, and in grieving, in which we all do, it's different. Everybody grieves in a different way. Salem's is very understandable, very relatable. So, while she is in grieving, she comes up with the idea to actually go and try to ask the gods to actually resurrect Ozma. And I'm sure that we have all, whenever someone has died, we would want them to return. And the thing here is that with Salem, her freedom was because of Ozma. And to her, after she was freed, her world was Ozma because they planned out a future together. They fell for one another. And I feel like for her to revive him, that her world would be whole again, that she would feel like she'd be free of the burdens of the pain that she felt growing up, or for however long she was trapped in that tower. Now, looking at the God of Light, he said that he could not resurrect Ozma. And his reason for that was that it would disrupt the balance of life and death. And of course, Salem doesn't understand this. She is very upset and displeased to hear this, while the God of Light tells her to let him rest in peace. And while I will say that Salem is not wrong for what she wants, she does want Ozma to come back because he was the joy in her life after everything went down. It's sad to see the God of Light not really be empathetic. I don't think that he had empathy, and I don't think he was really there for a grieving woman in her time of need, because he could have at least tried to help her a little bit, but he didn't really do that. And because of that, Salem then turns to her next option, which is the Brother of Darkness. Now, this is what these gods remind me of. They remind me of like an allegory for God and Satan, in a sense. It's kind of what I feel, kind of the vibes I get off of these two characters by Light and Darkness. So to me, it really feels like they have a religious part that inspired these two characters to be in the series. And the Brother of Darkness, he hears Salem's plea, and as stated, Salem did not mention anything about his elder brother. Now, that was wrong on Salem's part, but at the same time, which I'm getting ready to get into, the way that the Brother of Darkness reacted as well. Because we see that he is fine with just going ahead and resurrecting Ozma. And it's obviously no big deal. It's no big task to someone like him. So he does so. He revives Ozma for Salem. And you can see there's great joy with Salem to finally have Ozma back. And immediately, even though you would think, oh look, happy ending, everybody gets to be happy, Ozma's back, Salem gets to have the person that, she loved back, and the God of Darkness gets another person probably worshiping him. Yeah, not everybody's happy with this. So what this results in is the Brother of Light. It results in him finding out about the Brother of Darkness, bringing back the dead. And this leads to a fight between the two, because by what the Brother of Light stated, this goes against their agreement. And the Brother of Darkness says that you cannot judge me and you are not superior to me. Well, then the Brother of Light kills Ozma. He basically just Thanos snaps him and he's gone. And I'm going to say this. Thanos snap has been overused so much. I mean, yes, I realize it happened in the 1970s in the comics, but now that it is completely open because the movie really addressed this, oh boy, has it been overused in my opinion. It really has. You can tell this is the inspiration for the moment of Ozma dying. But what's really messed up here is that Ozma is brought back more than once, and he is killed more than once. That was a really messed up scene, considering the fact that, well, hey, look, we're taking a life, we're bringing it back, we're killing it, we're bringing it back, we're killing it again. And you can tell when Ozma is literally decomposing, when he is turning into dust, he is in pain. You can see that on his face, the expression, he is in pain. This is pretty bad for him, so it's a pretty messed up moment for Ozma. And because the God of Darkness is frustrated with the God of Light, he tells him that he cannot go against what he wants to do. If there's something that he wants to do, then he has every right. And these gods are very, very, very petty, if anything at all. And then we get to see them getting ready to go at it, I guess you could say, but obviously that gets stopped. But these gods obviously have other forms, and the god of darkness himself looks like a dragon of death. He reminds me, if anyone has played Fire Emblem Awakening, he reminds me of Grima a lot, except for much smaller, but yeah, he kind of reminds me of Grima. As to where the Brother of Light, he reminds me in a sense of Shenron. I'm not even kidding, he really does. And so, what stops this whole conflict between the two is that the Brother of Light, he addresses the fact that Salem had come to him first, and then because he wouldn't do what Salem had asked, that the Brother of Darkness, yes, it is then him who she went to, because she needed the help from somebody to bring back who she wanted to be brought back. And she felt the only other person with this power, or being rather, with this power would be the Brother of Darkness. And of course, this frustrates the Brother of Darkness, and then he agrees with his brother and says, "Oh, well, I see. Forgive me for my insolence." And then he just torches Ozma. Just kills the man right then and there. Like I said, it was nothing more than a game of, how long is this guy going to live and be brought back and killed until he's finally gone again? And so, before the reincarnations, Ozma has had to go through multiple deaths, which is a pretty tragic scene for him. And out of this, then we see Salem, out of her anger because of the way that things didn't go for her, she is then ready to take on the gods and either make them bow to her or kill them, but she is nowhere close to strong enough to actually take them. And because she tried to defy the gods and she actually manipulated the two of them, because this happened, they then punish her. You see her flying through the air and she lands right back at the God of Light's domain. And they then address to her and state that because of her punishment, because of what she's done, she will be granted immortality until she learns to value life. Now, while this punishment is understandable, because they stated that they did not want her to be able to be with her beloved, that would be the punishment. So, while this is understandable, at the same time, this would then disrupt the balance of what the Brother of Light stated, because he said that life and death is a balance. Yeah, immortality would automatically go against your balance, buddy. I think that goes against your thought process, because that's not how that works. But I'm going to go more into these two, because there's a lot I have to talk about with these two. But the Brother of Darkness comes to an agreement with the Brother of Light. And so Salem is to forevermore walk the earth until she can learn from her lesson. And while, yes, Salem was selfish about the fact that she wanted Ozma to live, at the same time, she did want him to have a longer life. She did want to be with him. So, yeah, it's selfish, but at the same time, I feel that it is kind of selfless, because she does want someone who died at a young age to live longer. But looking at the next part, Salem is trying to defy the gods because of how they punished her. She's trying to find ways to kill herself so that she can defy them, that she can show them otherwise, which her attempts at suicide is obviously for naught, because she can't kill herself. Because of her immortality, she is unable to die. So instead, she comes up with a plan to overthrow them, to kill the gods and throw them down by having the kingdoms join her so that they can literally just become the masters of their own fate. Essentially, they could get whatever they wanted and they could do whatever, and they wouldn't have to worry about the gods. So these kingdoms all, like I said, they come together with Salem to fight against the gods. And this shows that Salem has learned that not only could she manipulate the gods, but that mankind could also be easily persuaded, that she could manipulate them to her use. And so she does, and they go to attack. Now, the thing I'll say I do have an issue with here is I would have at least hoped that they could have shown more of a fight between the gods and the humans of magic, but they really didn't do that. It's kind of unfortunate, which this then, because they went against the gods and tried to attack, this goes on to the Brother of Darkness thinking to do the best punishment. Obliterate everyone. Just obliterate all of them and Don't worry about it. This is one of the worst moves I've ever seen made. You mean to tell me that because these people come and attack you, all of humanity has to literally suffer? That is ridiculous. And then we have the moon. And the moon, I'm not particularly a fan of how this happened. Now, like I said, if they had done like a magic fight, maybe one of the gods could have shot the moon. Because the moon, through the RWBY anthology manga, it has been stated that it is supposed to be the fall of humanity. Now, while this is not wrong, I just feel that this was not as good as it could have been. I feel like they could have done maybe a little bit more to this, but that happens. So, Salem did try to say that she would just have other people help fight against the gods, and then they state, oh no, that will never happen because you're the only human left. So yeah, so Salem's plans are done there. She's not going to be able to manipulate anyone to work with her to take down the gods. So they leave Remnant for good. And then Salem, because she wants to die, she wants to free herself of what she's living, she tries to jump into the cesspools of what seem like that grim liquid, and she falls in. But what this does is, once she falls into this, she does look more ghastly. And while the look is not bad, it supposedly is supposed to make her more destructive, more one with the grim. And while this is actually going on, here we go to the next thing. And the next thing is, the Brother of Light is speaking to Ozma. And he tells Ozma how Ozma could be the next chance of redeeming humanity. That this next wave of humans that will be coming in, that they could be judged later on. And that Ozma could be constantly reincarnated. Now here's the thing about this. Back in Volume 5, Chapter 3, Ozpin states that he was cursed by the gods because he could not take down Salem. He could not stop her. Now, here's the thing. There was nothing for Ozpin here to stop, because there was nothing he could stop. There was nothing he could do about what Salem did. So, whether this be a lie, or this be a retcon, is the thing. But, yeah, that is not accurate to that statement. Now, this is probably a lie on Ozma's part to demonize Salem, I would probably say. And another thing, now this is the retcon here, is that if you remember in Volume 4, Chapter 8, the gods, before they leave Remnant, had created the relics for humanity and left them on Earth before they left. Well, this is stated that they are only created by the God of Light. So here's the retcon there. The retcon is that it was not created by both the gods. It was created by the God of Light. You see, when Crow tells the story, he tells that the brother gods, both of them together, created the relics for humanity. So that is a retcon right there. Now, this also shows us what every relic looks like, though. So we do now have an idea of what they all look like. So that is interesting, and to see where they're going next, which will be Atlas, which is the sword. So that'll be something. Now, Ozpin decides to actually be reincarnated. He decides this. So this was a lie, or this was either retconned. But he decides this. So I'm going to go with a lie here on this one. And when he does, he is killing a Grim. And he saves another human's life. And Ozma can't explain who he is, which is strange because every time he's revived, he knows who he is. I don't know what that's about. It's kind of strange. And the Faunus were created. Now, I have a lot of thoughts on the Faunus as well as the new brink of humanity, because we know the new humans, as the God of Light stated, they are not going to be as powerful as the original humans were. And so, thing here is, Faunus just came out of nowhere is what they stated, right? Thing about that is, I think they came from where the humans may have come from. They may have come from dust, because if you remember in Volume 1, Chapter 1, humans born of dust. This is where humanity must have come from again, because the brother god of light stated that the humans were going to come back. It's never stated specifically how, but I would say because of Volume 1, Chapter 1, this is how they come back, is actually through the dust. So I think this is how they've actually come back. Magic is now gone, except for being used through dust. That's the only way people can acquire even a fraction of that power now. So these humans are not going to be as powerful as the previous humans were. Now, Ozpin even hears of stories of a witch, which this goes back to the Salem witch trials. Salem is seen as the witch, which she hasn't done anything wrong, I don't believe. So that's pretty funny. And Ozpin and Salem automatically know one another when they see one another. And the brother god of light, he stated that Salem would not be the same person because Ozma wanted to go back to the afterlife to be with Salem. And he stated that you will not find her there because she's not dead, in which he learned, and he meets her. But he did say where you will find comfort, you will find pain as well. And that leads into that. But Salem is not a monster by any means here. As much as she may look different, she is not a monster. Ozpin and Salem then try to help the people of the world come together, because Salem has this idea that the humans, they need a leader. They need someone to lead them. And it's interesting because they had the idea of becoming gods themselves at this point, and by doing so, they created their own following, and that's an interesting way to show that they ruled at one time. They even had a family. It showed that Salem is not an evil individual. It showed that Salem has a loving and nurturing side. Realistically, this has brought Ozpin and Salem closer together than they were before, because this is basically the continuation of their life. I mean, we get to see them with a family. They are bringing humans closer together, even. At least, they're trying to. And that's an interesting take. It's an interesting thought that these two believed that they could rule together to bring humanity together, to make it better. And what I want to say is, this didn't seem like a tyrannical rule. This was more of, hey, let's better humanity together. And that's what they really did. They were killing the Grimm that were attacking people. And it's just interesting to see this out of Salem and Ozpin. It's interesting to see them make this change. But then we get the whole problem, which could be the greatest mistake Ozpin has ever made. And the reason for this is because Salem herself wanted humanity to basically just worship them. And at the same time, as it worshiping them, it allows them to root out, in her words and her ideology, root out the non-believers, I guess you could say. And it goes back to the idea of religion and war, because religion and politics are two big things that cause war. And that's basically what this is. This is a situation of believing and non-believing and becoming disputes, causing the people to divide, and it's another case of religion or politics creates war. And that's an interesting thought, that they use this as the idea for the people attacking one another. I personally think this was a good idea because it really makes it feel like real world problems in a sense there, because that has happened over history. That has been a big thing that has started wars over history. So I kind of like the idea and the premise they had for that. So Ozma then questions himself, saying, "What are we doing?" And he even says out loud, "This is not what he asked of me." And Salem then states, "What did you just say?" So there was that issue, and Ozma finally decides to tell Salem, because Salem also kept her secrets. So did Ozma. And so Ozma decides to admit that he was revived, and his reincarnation occurs because of the God of Light, and by collecting the relics, they could then have the gods come back and judge humanity. And Salem even states that at this point it doesn't really matter, because they could make humanity better than it once was, that they can basically weed out the bad and put in the good. And Ozma really disagrees with this idea. So Ozma does the next thing, decides to walk out. And this is the mistake, because instead of trying to work it out with Salem, in which he most easily could have, he decides, "Hey kids, let's leave. Let's just leave." And I have to say, this was the biggest mistake, because This was something that could have been easily, very easily avoided. And then you see Salem standing there right near the windows. And I'm serious, this scene reminded me of the movie The Shining. Has anybody ever seen that movie? You'll know what I'm talking about if you've seen that movie. And she's standing there, and you can tell she is not happy about the situation. Which, who could really blame her, because instead of trying to walk out, Ozma could have just, like I said, worked it out and talked to her about it. And instead, he does this. And then this starts to have a fight because Salem throws the first attack and Ozpin counters. And this goes to the point to where they really just destroy the palace, kill their own children, and in the end, this leaves them with nothing. It really doesn't accomplish anything for either of them. You start to see the Grimm even gather around the castle. And at the last moment, you see Ozpin starting to drag himself away very slowly while bleeding. Salem revives herself, and she even states, "We had freedom." And as he tries to say something back, she kills him again. And we start to see his other lives and how basically, in a sense, since he's being revived, he's also leading these other lives through punishments because of himself and his own depression. And we see that 2 lives, he was a drunk. And that's not a good thing. But 1 life finally reconstructed himself as a person, and then he went forward, even had a family, and tried to save people. And in the end, he tried to ask the question to Jin before about the relics, and then if he could stop Salem. And so Jin even states that Salem cannot be stopped. And that's the end of the episode. But the thing here is, I'm going to give a lot of my opinions here. While there are some things I like within this chapter, there are problems that I really do have with this chapter at the very same time. So let me address the good, and then I will address the bad. So, first, we finally got answers. That is the best part to this episode, is the fact that we finally have answers. Even I have addressed myself that we need answers. And it's about time we finally started getting them. They started to deliver answers. So that is a plus. Theories, some of them have been killed. But at the same time, at least we have answers. I mean, the theories of the moon, how it could have been shattered, well, we now know. Also, Salem reincarnating into Summer is a dead theory now. Now, as we continue to look at things, another thing I did like, we did get a Rapunzel reference out of Salem. And what I like here is it actually came from Pyrrha. When Ozpin asked Pyrrha what her favorite fairy tales were, she stated that one of them was Rapunzel. So that's cool, because Salem, in a sense, is Rapunzel, because Pyrrha stated that the girl in the tower was one of them. Another one that she stated was the 2 brothers, which is referring to the brother gods. So that is a cool thing. I did actually like seeing that they went back on things. It is true what Miles stated, that they have gone back on the material. I can really see this. So we do start to see that. We do get the answers to Ozpin and Salem and their backstory. That is also another plus here. And there are things I do have problems with, but at least we got answers on that degree. And it really shows that Salem, yes, while she was a selfish individual, at the same time, she really had a tragic fate of never escaping her cage. She had freedom at certain points, and then it was lost to her. And so she tried to find other means to regain that freedom. And it's sad, really. Salem's story is actually a sad one, I think. And to be honest, it makes me feel for her a little more, really. As for Ozpin, I like Ozma. I don't like Ozpin now. I was on the fence about Ozpin for a long time. This story really made me not like him. His first life, yeah, I liked Ozma. I did. I think he is a pretty good character. Ozpin, no. I don't like him because over the years he has learned to deceive and manipulate the people. He lies to them and keeps secrets. And I don't really like him. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of Ozpin now. Ozma, I liked who he once was. That's the best way to put it. He was a good person. He was very selfless at one time, and now it seems like he becomes more about what he wants than anything else. It's like he became selfish. He wants to stop Salem, but at the same time, he can't. And then again, here we also are with him really just manipulating the people. And I'm not really a fan of Ozpin in that way. And I feel that he could have worked things out with Salem. I really do. Everybody in this really made mistakes, but here's what I'm going to say. I can't stand the Brother Gods. They are two of my least favorite characters in RWBY. I cannot stand either one of these two. They are petty, they are in competition, and then in the end they think that by punishing Salem with immortality to value life, well, how is she supposed to do that when everyone else is dead? After Salem gets the people to fight for her to take down the gods, how is she supposed to value life and get through this curse when everyone else is dead? How are you able to value life at that point when you can't even die? And not only that, but the God of Light said, oh, I cannot bring back Ozma because it would disrupt the balance. You bring him back anyways. That is disrupting the balance. You're disrupting the balance. As well as immortality is disrupting the balance because life and death is supposed to be a balance. You kind of contradict yourself with that statement alone. I just don't like either of these brother gods. I think that they are petty. I think they're selfish. And I just don't really like either one of them. I think, in reality, they are the true villains of RWBY, if you think about it. And to my next question, why would you want to bring the gods back by gathering all the relics if they are just going to judge humanity, when Jin also said that Ozma had realized after his reincarnation, the very first one, that humanity was more divided than ever? Why would you want to bring them back if they're more divided whenever the Brother God of Light stated that if we are to be brought back, we will judge humanity, and if they turn out to not be unified, then they will just be eradicated again? To be honest, I don't like the idea of Ozma just deciding, yes, this is the best idea, because what him and Salem were doing, unifying the people, that was good. And if they're going to be brought back through the relics, then why get them in the first place? I mean, I can understand Salem's point of view because she wants to kill them. That's pretty much it. She wants to defy them, and she wants to kill them. I can get behind that idea that she would want to try to make an effort to do that to them. But at the same time, Ozpin would doom humanity if he got them now. If he got all of them together now, he would just eradicate all of them. And this wouldn't stop Salem realistically. This would just leave her in the world where there's no one again. It would just be like a wash, rinse, repeat cycle. And I don't really like the plot of the idea of trying to get these brother gods back, because I don't see that it's really going to change anything. I don't see where the change is here. Unless they can unify all the people and the gods can live amongst them again, I don't see why you would want to get them to come back. I just feel like, to me, it doesn't really add up. But, you know, that's just my thoughts. I mean, maybe some of you agree, maybe some of you disagree, but I just don't see the point of trying to get the relics together, really. And what Ozpin and Salem are doing, yes, while at the same time it's a double-edged sword, because, yes, while at one point they are unifying some people, they're not unifying everyone. So that means that while they are getting people together, that's a plus, that's the good point to what Ozpin and Salem are doing. At the same time, as Salem had stated, it's basically to kill the ones that don't agree with them. Kill the ones that don't believe in them. Now, that's not right, because those people shouldn't die, but at the same time, I don't think, to a degree, that Salem and Ozpin were wrong. I do think it's wrong that they were to weed out people who don't agree with them and just let them die. Yeah, I disagree with letting their followers do that much, but at the same time, I think that Ozpin and Salem trying to unify the people, though, I do agree with that. I think that they were right on trying to unify everyone in the world. Now, another thing that has bothered some people are the four daughters that Salem and Ozpin had. Some people think that they could be the maidens, and I don't think that they are, because this affects the lore that has been established. And it wouldn't make sense if these 4 girls are the maidens. I will not be very happy with this if this turns out to be the case, but I think that because 2 magical beings had children together, I think that this could create more magical beings. Now that would make sense to me, but now, if these girls are the maidens, here's the problem. Magic doesn't just transfer once they die. It doesn't work that way. And by the lore itself of Ozpin giving his magic to the 4 girls, and then once they die, it goes to someone, whether it's the woman of their thoughts or whether it's someone random. That's how it works. And it doesn't just go to whoever once a magic user dies. So that wouldn't make any sense. So, I don't think these are the maidens. I think that they are the inspiration for Ozpin giving those 4 girls the maiden powers, though. I do think that that is the inspiration for that. I think that's where the idea came from. And let's hope that's what it is, because that would greatly affect what lore we've had. And I really hope that those girls do not turn out to be the maidens. But that's just my thoughts on it. I just think that they're actually the inspiration for later on when Ozpin gets reincarnated to give 4 girls his powers. But that's just my thoughts. Overall, I would give this a 6.5 out of 10 because I do enjoy certain aspects. I do enjoy the references back to fairy tales, and that the divide motif was actually played while Ozpin and Salem looked like deities in front of everyone else. I also liked how we got answers. That was the plus, and I genuinely feel bad for Salem, honestly. But I feel like a lot of sides were wrong here, and here's the minus. They did make me actually not like Ozpin now. I actually genuinely don't like him. I like Ozma, but I don't like Ozpin, and I don't like the Brother Gods. But Salem is also not innocent here either. And I do like that no side is innocent here, but at the same time, I feel that Volume 6, Chapter 3 was not as strong as Volume 6, Chapter 2. But anyways, I'll be back again on Tuesday. Let me know what you think down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know in the comments down below. But anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did enjoy, hit the video with a like, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and share this with your friends if you found this informative or useful. Well, anyways, I hope you all have yourselves a wonderful and fantastic day today, and remember, if today was not a good day, tomorrow can always be better. Take care of yourselves and everyone around you, and have yourselves a good one out there, everybody.